In the 32 years that I taught at ILF, I found ILF students to be extraordinarily bright, extraordinarily hard-working. Not all students, of course, but for the most part, very, very open, interested in being challenged, having their thinking challenged, thinking the world through in different ways, because my job was always to stir the mud up from the bottom of the pond, so that students could sort out the world in a different way. That can be pretty threatening to some students. It can be very challenging. But at ILF, students were very willing to engage that challenge. I've been told over the years by faculty colleagues, you require too much reading in your classes. And my only response to my colleagues was, I don't know what happens in your classes, but my students read what I ask them to read because they've got to come to class and discuss it. I'm very fond of an interpretive paradigm floated by Jamaican scholar David Scott in a book he titled Conscripts of Modernity. To paraphrase what he does for history in general in the Euro-Christian world, let me suggest that schools of theology and theologies tend to be what Scott would call romantic enterprises. My time at ILF has been invested in trying to crack the facade of the romantic and to reintroduce the notion of tragedy. Theology is tragedy, history is tragedy, American history is tragedy, Christian history is tragedy. It's not just things keep getting better and better. After all, we have elections every 4 years in the United States, and things don't always get better and better, as we know acutely right now. So in this course I taught, beginning with Gene Miller Schmidt in 1990, and taught every year until this year, the history of Christianity in the modern world. We've tried to get at the underside of the history of Christianity, to demonstrate how Christianity in the modern world has marched hand in hand with European Christian colonialism, that it was about conquest. We talk about the spread of Christianity, but the spread of Christianity follows the spread of Christian conquest from the 15th century until now. In 1900, we're told that European nations controlled 84% of the land mass on the planet. And with controlling 84% of the land mass, spread Christianity into those parts of the world. That's not just a wonderful thing. In fact, it has its underside, its tragedy side. And if ILF's MDiv students are going into Christian ministry, they better understand that there is a recipe there for doing great harm in the world, even as they think only about accomplishing good and great things. Indian cultures have been decimated, not just by colonialist armies and massacres, not just by legal codices that are designed in order to deprive Indians of their land, not just by government institutions, but by churches whose first and foremost aim was to destroy Indian cultures and replace it with a Christian culture. That's not an unmitigated good. In fact, it makes life very, very difficult for young men like I was, young women, trying to reclaim the American Indian self. Well, I would hope that ILIF will continue to hire faculty who have some demonstrable expertise in stirring up the mud from the bottom of the pond. That sets ILIF apart from a whole slew of other schools of theologies and seminaries whose only job is to train people to make more churches and to fill them up with bodies.